You're listening to the Disruptive Franchise Podcast with Stacey Can, the podcast that celebrates innovation in franchising and peeks behind the curtain of failure, success, and the future of the franchise industry.
Most franchisors don't actually have a recruitment problem in the way that they think. Instead, when I look under the hood, it's a predictability problem. What's the difference? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about this week. So a lot of franchisors come to me and they say, Stace, haven't recruited a franchisee in like 12 months. And it's like a dirty, because nobody wants to admit that. Everyone's looking at your franchise and telling you that you're amazing and it's great. And you've got all these franchisees doing their thing. And so a franchisor generally feels a little bit ashamed of this. And actually you shouldn't at all if that is you, because honestly, more than you would ever realize are in this situation. But the thing that causes you to not be able to recruit, I'm not even talking about consistently, I'm talking about like on an average. So the industry average is 5 per year, 5 new franchisees. And the thing that stops you and gets in your way, as I said, it's not because you don't know what you're doing in recruitment. It's because you have an issue where you don't have a predictable pipeline. And how do you know if this is you? Well, if you could tell me right now how many leads you are expecting to get in the next 3 months, 3 to 6 months, and how many franchisees you are expecting to convert in the next 3 to 6 months, then you have predictability, because you can say with quite, good certainty that, maybe we bring in 10 leads a month and one of those converts to a franchisee. If you're not in that position, then yes, you do have a predictability issue. And unfortunately, if you're a franchisor with a predictability issue, that lack of predictable pipelines means that what you're actually carrying right now is an extremely expensive hobby. And you probably feel a lot more like a coach to your existing franchisees than you do the franchisor when you started. It breeds all kinds of issues within your franchise as well. We've talked previously on different episodes about how actually, if you don't have new blood coming in, then you're already in decline. And the reason that I say that is because, let's say you've got 20 franchisees in your network, or even 10. Of that, like 10 or 20 that are there, you will have probably like 10 to 20% of your franchisees already thinking about not renewing when they hit their renewal point or leaving. And so if you've got franchisees who are leaving that you're not replacing, that's an issue. It's still an issue if you've got franchisees that are leaving and you're replacing them, but you're not really breaking past that plateaued number. It's a problem for your franchisees as well, because what happens very often in a network is that when new franchisees come in, they reinvigorate everybody. They reinvigorate you because you've got this franchisee training to go through. And I love doing franchisee training. It's the best part, because you see somebody right at the start of their journey, but they come in with fresh ideas and fresh enthusiasm. And that new blood literally just lifts the whole network to make them stand a bit taller. People have new ideas, which is awesome. But if you don't have the new blood coming in, what actually happens is your franchisees, they really feel it, and their shoulders start to drop a little bit, and they start to feel quietly quite frustrated because they've invested in your brand and they want to be part of a growing, exciting brand, not a stagnant one. So this predictability issue is a bigger issue than you realize. The other thing that happens is within like franchisee management is very often like if you've had like a recent cohort of franchisees, maybe they've kind of hit that point in the plateau where they've done everything you did in training and now actually they need to go back and do it all again. But they don't realize that. So what actually happens is they start to niggle at you as the franchisor, and they start to say, it's not working, or this isn't happening, or, I don't feel like I've got the right, Well, when you bring new franchisees in, those people, when they hit that plateau, again, they get reinvigorated by the newbies because they see the newbies doing well and they see what the newbies are doing. And it's a really good visceral reminder for them that, yeah, if I do that, I'll get that result. So it solves an awful lot of franchisee support issues when you have a predictable pipeline and constant people coming in. But the darker side of not having a predictable pipeline is that if you don't have, if you're not able to predict what's coming in and you don't know what your sales are going to be, like your turnover, and it's not increasing, then it's incredibly difficult to plan what's going to happen in your business. It's incredibly difficult to, refresh the brand or work on new stuff. It's incredibly difficult to invest in growth as well. It's a real self-fulfilling prophecy. So we've got, new franchisee comes in, they bring money in, and with that capital, you can use that to go recruit the next franchisee. If you don't have that cycle happening, it's really difficult to go and actually spend money on franchise recruitment. So what happens is, again, you kind of stagnate, keep talking to the same pool. You don't get out of that kind of circle that you're in to actually go and find those new franchisees who are, by the way, out there. Absolutely out there. People are buying franchises right now. And so inevitably what happens is it also interrupts your sleep. And this becomes a bigger challenge because actually, yes, we can joke about, oh, I haven't slept very well, but that can actually have a really severe impact on your energy levels. It can cause fatigue. And that lack of sleep can also inevitably end up with, poor mental health as well. So generally it can make you feel really, really rubbish about yourself, about your franchise, and your franchisees are going to feed off of that. So that's why we have to address this elephant in the room. Now, what does predictable actually mean is probably a good thing to cover here as well. I'm not talking about constant new leads every single day. Unless you've got that, and that is amazing, by the way. Like, that should be the goal for everybody. Of course it should. But it's not massively realistic. What is more realistic, however, is having a system that can pull in leads, whether you are on it or not. Are you dealing with a crisis over here with your franchisees? Well, your recruitment should still be working in front of you. Are you taking 2 weeks off to go on holiday? Then your recruitment system should still be working. And unfortunately, many franchisors become the engine. They become the driver. It becomes all about the energy that they put in and the content that they create and the events that they go and attend. So they are the engine and the driving force. But actually, if you have a system that sits behind that, then you can batch and schedule and take some time out, or you can actually sometimes just step away and know that that system is still going to be out there collecting leads for you. I kind of liken it a little bit to like route one is posting on social media every day and having to get up and spin the wheel every single day, because although it's there peripherally, you need the new content, the Hormozy style, do more, so that you can't fail. But actually, it's a bit more kind of sensible to have things that spin on their own. One of my favorite things from a marketing point of view as a franchisee was my car magnet. So I had a little magnet, or not a little, it was a big magnet that stuck on my car. And wherever I drove, whatever I was doing, whether I was nipping to the shops or taking the kids to a club, I was advertising all of the time. And so that evergreen, always on advertising that drives somewhere, okay? Not like call me. I don't want you to call me because then I'm stuck with the phone all of the time. Where can we then put them into a system that then helps the lead to automatically identify for themselves, is it right for them? Do they understand what a franchise is? How can they self-qualify and how can we qualify them based on information that we collect? And if we can do that consistently, what will happen is that will build your predictable pipeline, because what happens is as everything starts to drip in the top of the funnel and stay dripping in at the top of the funnel, then what flushes out at the bottom becomes more consistent as well. So, then ideally we want to get to a place where that actually if you go out and do social media marketing, or if you put a lead magnet out there, or if you do personal outreach, or if you go to an event, you're putting them into your sales system, and then your sales system is doing the heavy lifting. And then the beauty happens. The geeky part of me just elates at this point, because then what we can start to look at is go, okay, well, do you know what, on a benchmarking average industry conversion rate, we need 100 leads to make one franchisee happen. But what if your marketing works better than that? What if actually you get to a point where you realise, looking at the data that you track, that you only need 50 leads to get that franchisee in, or 20 leads, or 10 a month? Then it's much easier for you to go and take the right action and go, well, actually, do you know what? If I only need to go and get 10 leads per month, 10 of the right kind of lead, how do I best do that? What's the best way that I can do that? Or which kind of person is working? So you can tell that I'm a data geek, obviously, but we all have to be, don't we? We have to be able to look at the data and stop the fear and the narrative in our heads and the limiting beliefs surfacing and getting in our way. Because at the end of the day, this is all only maths. It really is. The maths play out. We can sit and tell ourselves all of the time as franchisors that, the economy is really bad. It's really hard to recruit franchisees right now. The economy is really bad, but people are still out there doing multi-six-figure launches. Is it that bad, or is your messaging wrong? Well, nobody's buying franchises at the moment. I've got countless case studies from franchisors that I've worked with in the last 6 months who really do prove that people are buying franchises. You're just maybe not as invigorated. Maybe you've lost the love of it a little bit there, if we're really honest. And, I'm not saying it's not hard, but where are you making it hard for yourself is what I think you really need to look at. And, if that hits you hard this week, that's okay. But be honest with yourself. Do you have a predictable pipeline? Because if you don't have a predictable pipeline, then that is absolutely the thing that you need to address. That should be your sole focus in your business, is to create that predictable pipeline so that you know whether you're coming or going, so that your franchisees can feel good about themselves and the brand that they've invested in, so that you can sleep at night. Wouldn't that be amazing? Without worrying about, this isn't happening. And before we close off this episode, the worst thing that I really see, if I'm honest, is franchisors who have gotten to a certain level, let's say maybe 20 franchisees. And so in their heads, they know what they're doing because they've got that far, right? But they're still marketing like it's like 2022. What worked in 2022 or 1998 doesn't work in 2026. Technology is changing around us. Human behavior is changing around us. People's expectations are changing around us. But there is gold out there for you to have. And the two significant opportunities that I think that franchisors really need to be looking at more closely right now are the mass redundancies happening at the moment. Mass redundancy means that there are people that would have never ever dreamt of investing in a franchise that suddenly are completely displaced. They're displaced from the security, the perceived security that they had when they were in a corporate job. So when people say, oh, well, it's a bit risky being self-employed, that objection is gone from their mind, because actually they've not felt any risk and still lost their job. They also, if they've been there a while, have a severance package. They have some money sitting in the bank to invest in their next move. So I would strongly be looking at redundancies at the moment and as a franchise recruitment opportunity. The other area of opportunity that I really see is young people. There is a huge amount of unemployment in young people, so under 30 years old, many of whom have gone through university, who have great skills and great knowledge and a real thirst to, progress, but can't find a job because the job market has changed. Yes, they're sitting in debt. Do they have the money to invest in a franchise? Well, it depends how you set your franchise fees up and how they pay it, I guess. But also, there's so many people, young people, who now won't be going to university because of the debt crisis. Are you in a place where you can go scoop some of those people up as well? So I guess in closing for this episode, the importance of having a predictable pipeline just cannot be underestimated. And if you're sat there telling yourself that you've got a recruitment issue, then just go check your pipeline and have a look. And if you need help with this, I'm going to be running a workshop, depending on when you listen to this, on the 29th of June. So you can go sign up in the show notes. If you've missed that because it's past the 29th of June, go to the same link and you can go watch a replay. That's it from me this week. Go check your pipelines. This episode was brought to you by Impact Franchising, the agency who offer predictable franchise growth done for you. If you have loved what you've heard, please go and help other people find it by hitting the subscribe button and liking the episode. See you on the next one.